welcome to today's practice. I will be leading a prenatal Vinyasa flow. So this is suitable for any stage of pregnancy. Obviously work with whatever you're feeling today. So some things will feel better farther along in the pregnancy, some things will feel better earlier on. Don't do anything that doesn't feel good to you. Most importantly, trust your body to tell you what's right for you throughout your pregnancy, throughout this practice. And of course, make sure that your doctor has given you clearance to partake in physical activity during your pregnancy. I recommend having some water nearby, and if you have a set of yoga blocks, that can come in handy, especially later in your pregnancy, just to bring the ground up to you. So anytime hands are on the ground, you could have your hands on blocks instead. We're gonna just start off in a nice, comfortable seated shape. I'm not gonna use any props, but if you feel more comfortable sitting on a cushion, a pillow of some sort, or if you have yoga props, you could use a bolster. You could put your bottom on a bolster. Otherwise, just if this is comfortable, you're in a normal crisscross-legged shape. And when you find that shape, when you find that comfortable space to be in, then just close your eyes. Perhaps you place your hands on your belly, connecting with your baby for a moment. Maybe just having your hands on your legs feels good. Maybe hands at the heart, or one hand at your baby and one hand at your heart. Start to allow your breath to deepen and to lengthen. A few big deep breaths. I give a little disclosure, which is that my dog is in the room, so there's a little bit of background noise. If you hear any shaking or dog noises, that's what's going on. And just start to notice the natural rhythm of your breath. As you feel the rise and the fall of your chest and the rise and the fall of your belly, notice the pace. If you feel yourself clenching in your throat or your jaw or your chest at all, start to just release that tension. And begin to bring your awareness just to your baby here. So maybe both hands are at your baby, maybe your hands stay one at the heart, one at the baby, or at the legs, but bring your awareness and your focus just to your baby and take a moment to check in with your baby. And then redirect your focus just to yourself, checking in with yourself here. Maybe you bring both hands to your chest, to your heart. Really notice what you're feeling physically in your body and what you're feeling internally, in an emotional way, in a sensory way. A lot of times the changes that occur with pregnancy cause us to feel perhaps a little bit more anxiety than normal, more discomfort than normal. Sometimes we feel really great. We have great days in pregnancy. And just embrace wherever you are in this moment right now. When you're ready, release your hands, open your eyes. Take a big circle of your arms up and overhead. Intertwine your palms, turn your hands inside out. Press the hands to the sky, release the back of your neck. Press the hands forward as you let your head and your neck release, and then rock out your body side to side. Just finding some expansion across the back of the body. You might get a few cracks. Cracks in the back and the shoulders. Press the hands all the way back up. As you exhale, release your hands by your side. Plant your one hand outside one hip and stretch long. It doesn't matter which side you're starting on. Come to the other side, same thing. Just finding length through the sides of the body. Start to move side to side here a few times, just with your breath. Noticing what you feel as you continue to move. Does it start to feel better? Do you start to notice other areas of tightness and tension? One more cycle each side here. One more time, just completing the cycle. Come back upright. Do a little switch of your legs, so the opposite leg is in front, just to get an equal stretch in your hips. And then take one arm across your body, just coming into a little bit of a shoulder stretch. So you can stay nice and upright with the head, or you could let the head release to the opposite ear, the ear release to the opposite shoulder. You can even pull the arm down to bring the stretch down into the arm a little bit. Get some cracks. I hear cracks in my body. Maybe you're cracking too. And then same thing other side. To cross the body, stretching out the shoulders. Come back up. We're going to just do a little bit of a wrist stretch. So you're going to take your hand like you're saying stop, and then rotate the fingertips, external rotation down. Bring your opposite hand to stretch out that inner wrist. Sometimes we have tightness in our wrists in pregnancy, especially later in the pregnancy. So if you're experiencing any carpal tunnel, this can feel nice. And then come to the back of the wrist. So you're stretching out the back of the wrist. This comes up into those forearms. And do a few circles, side to side. Same thing, opposite hand. So external rotation, fingertips are facing the ground, and then you're just stretching out that inner wrist. And come to the back of the wrist. And then just a few cycles. Go ahead, keep your right knee bent and take your left leg opening it wide. So one knee is bent, one leg is open. That right foot can come to touch the inside of the left leg, or you could have a little separation, especially if you're farther along in your pregnancy and your belly is in the way. Just accommodate that belly. And then you're just gonna lay yourself down on that leg. You could have your palm down, your forearm down. You're gonna be right up by the thigh, or you can reach all the way down for the toes. Wherever you are is just fine. You're gonna stretch up and over again. And keep that leg extended as you start to stretch yourself straight down the middle. So finding a little bit of expansion, let the head and the neck release. Start to walk yourself back. And now your right hand will go outside your right hip. So this is the bent knee. You're gonna point those left toes, and you're just gonna start to lift your seat up off the ground. Do this slowly. See if this feels good. It might not work for you. If not, you're just staying where you were. If this does feel good, it can be a really nice long stretch across the side body if you're having tightness in your side body. And roll yourself nice and slowly and carefully all the way down. Switch over to the other side. So now left knee is bent, right leg is straight. You're sliding down that leg to find a nice long stretch. One more breath. And then take yourself straight down the middle. Let your head and your neck release for a moment. Walk yourself all the way back up. Now left hand outside left hip, right leg straight. Slowly see if this works, if it feels good. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. One more breath. Slowly roll yourself down. And now you're gonna bring the soles of your feet to touch and open your knees wide. And you see, I just started right in on some natural movement. This is what's intuitive to me. I'm not pregnant right now. So what feels good to my body might be very different than what feels good to your body. So maybe it's a rocking sensation. Maybe you're rolling your body around in some big circles. If you are taking circles, then just make sure you take those circles each direction. So you get a nice even rolling around. You might find that it just feels good to be still here, upright, or to drape your body down. You could bring your hands inside your knees and find a little bit more space in those inner thighs, across the groin, stretching out that pelvic area. I'm gonna take just a few more breaths in this shape. So again, you're just moving in an intuitive way to you. You can always close your eyes if my movements are distracting to whatever you're experiencing. And again, that background noise is my dog who's got itchy skin right now, so he's scratching his body in the background. And when you're ready, you're just going to bring those knees together, turn yourself around, and come into a tabletop shape, so hands and knees. The farther along you are in the pregnancy, probably the wider you're gonna want your knees. So if you're in your third trimester or you're nearing the end of your pregnancy, you might want a lot of space between your knees. If you're earlier on, then maybe your knees are just right underneath your hips. Start to sway your body. Just keep the spine neutral to begin with. Just rocking my hips left to right. Check in, see how this feels to you. And then when you're ready, you're gonna start to turn these into some circles. So I'm actually scooping my pelvis in and rolling around. It's like you're hula hooping with your hips, if you know how to hula hoop. And then you just reverse those circles. So create a little bit of mobility in that pelvis. A couple more times here. And then begin to just gently shift your weight forward and backward. You might find a little stretch in that inner wrist, those inner wrists as your weight comes a little forward. You might find a little stretch across the back as your weight comes a little bit farther back. And now make your way to that neutral tabletop shape. Tuck your toes under and see how it feels in your feet. If that's enough of a stretch for your feet, then just stay there. If you want a little bit more, you can send your seat back to rest on your heels, really getting into those feet. Sometimes that feels great, sometimes it doesn't feel so great, and that's too much. Pull yourself all the way back to that tabletop, and then untuck those toes and round your back as much as you can. Let your head and your neck go. Tuck the toes, tilt the seat, open your chest. If this is too much in the lower back, especially later in pregnancy, then just keep the spine neutral here, and you're only doing the rounding. If it feels okay to find that lower back bend, you can do that more exaggerated pose. So the toes can be tucked for the back bend and untucked as you dome the back of the body, as you round it. Move a few more times here. We call these our cat-cows if you're not familiar with the terminology. Take a few more rounds of your cat-cows. If you're doing this practice and you have a little one at home, you can always do the sounds. Like a toddler loves the moo and the meow of the cat-cow. One more time here. And come back to neutral. Walk your hands one handprint forward. Kick your feet wide so they're as wide as your yoga mat. Tuck your toes. You're going to try a downward dog for a moment and see how it feels for you. So hips high. It's a little bit shorter and a wider of a downward dog in your pregnancy. If having your head below your heart does not feel good in your body, then right away you're just back in your tabletop and that's where you're hanging out. You can move your body in your tabletop. If this feels good, then find a little bit of motion by pedaling out the feet. Pedaling them side to side. Start to walk your hands with nice softly bent knees, slowly back. Begin to take your gaze forward so you don't get dizzy as you find your way up to your standing. So we take it nice and slow, those transitions in pregnancy, because you can get a little bit dizzy if you do it too fast. Bring your feet to a natural stance. Take your arms up and over. I'm working with a small space here, so I'm going to take my arms straight in front of me. If you have room, take your arms nice and wide. Press the palms together if it feels okay. And then slowly bend your knees. Start to fold halfway down, hands on your thighs. Lengthen your spine. See how this feels. If you want to hang out here, stay here. If you want to find a full forward fold and let your head and your neck go, you can. So whether your head goes below your heart or not is up to whatever feels good for your breath. Take one more breath here, and then you're rolling your way up. Really exaggerate the rounding. Take the arms up and over again, and release your hands by your side. You can stay in the orientation that you're in. I'm just going to orient the camera so you can see me. Arms up and overhead. And now take the right hand to the left wrist and pull yourself over to the side. So you're finding that really long side body stretch. Come to center, opposite direction. So pulling all the way over. And come all the way back to center, release your hands. If you're at the back of your mat, just step yourself to the front of the mat. You're going to take a big giant step back with the right foot. This can be a multiple step process. You can take a few baby steps to get back. So you end up in a high lunge. Bend the back knee enough that your spine is nice and neutral. Hold here and breathe. You might already feel that left thigh firing up. Your hands can stay at your waist. That's a nice place to be in pregnancy. You can take your arms up, but that's going to increase your heart rate, which might not be what you want here. And take another breath. We're going to do a really slow but challenging transition to bring this back knee down to the ground. If you need to do something else to get the knee down, using blocks to do it comfortably and safely, then you do what you need to do. So that back knee is going to come down to tap on the ground, and then send the front foot a little bit farther forward. Hands can come to the top of the thigh, So I have a nice wide stance, so there's room for a belly, for a big belly if you're got a baby in there towards the end of pregnancy and you need to make room for it. One more breath. If you feel any discomfort in the back knee, you just can tuck those back toes. It can help to alleviate that discomfort. And we're going to start to straighten the front leg. So this is an opportunity to have your hands on blocks. If you have more flexibility, maybe your fingertips are on the ground, but that might not feel good if you're farther along in pregnancy. This can be a lot in the thigh, so you decide how far down you need to go. If you need a soft bend in the knee, soft bend in the knee. One more breath. Rebend that front knee. You can use blocks. You can use the strength of your legs. Tuck the back toes. We're coming back up into that high lunge. So again, that transition is for you to make. We're playing a little bit with balance, which can be very challenging in pregnancy. Hands to your waist here and breathe. And then you're just going to peel yourself open for your warrior two. So I'm going to plant my right heel on the ground, pivot open. Now I'm just turning myself around so I'm facing the camera. You stay wherever you are. So the left foot is forward, the right foot is grounded, hips are nice and open, hands at the waist here. If you feel like you want your arms elevated, you can take your arms to a T. We're going to do a little bit of movement which can incorporate the arms, or just keep your hands out of it. So start just gently bending and straightening the front knee. This is the left leg here. And then if you're bringing the arms into it, take your arms to a T. As you inhale, straighten, circle the arms up. As you exhale, release. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, release. And do this 3 more times. Inhale, exhale. 2 more times. Inhale, exhale. 1 more time. Inhale, exhale. Keep that front knee bent. Now you're going to take the front arm and drape it down. So I've got my forearm resting down, supporting me. And then take that right arm, the top arm, and stretch it over the right ear. So you're coming back to that side body stretch here. 1 more breath. Bring your hands to your waist. Slowly straighten the front leg. Pivot the left foot. So now your feet are parallel and you're in a wide leg straddle. Hands at your waist, softly bend your knees and begin to hinge yourself forward. Great opportunity to put your fingertips, your palms on blocks if you have blocks or something else to elevate a little cushion. If it feels okay, you can put your hands on the floor, but again, bear in mind that having the head below the heart might not feel good. Knees can be nice and bent. Just gonna rock side to side, stretching out the inner thighs, the outer hips. Move a few times here, back and forth. And come back to neutral and to stillness. Bend your knees very deeply, hands back to your waist. Press the heels into the earth as you push yourself all the way back up. Straighten the legs. You can shake out the legs a little bit, march a little bit, get a little bit of movement. Come back to the front of your mat. And now we're going to step the left foot back. Big giant step. Your feet are hip distance or wider apart. Bend the back knee so you have a nice long neutral spine. Hands at your waist or arms extended. Pause and breathe. You're going to feel that right thigh start to fire up. And then we're going to do that slow transition down to the ground until the left knee taps down to the ground. You can keep the toes tucked or untucked. Front foot can go a little farther forward. Hands can go to the thigh. Find that deep hip flexor stretch and right hip stretch. 1 more breath here. And then we're going to stretch that right hamstring. So this is where those hands can stay on the thigh. You could have your hands on blocks or the ground, depending on where you are, what feels good to you. Take a few breaths. 1 more breath. Start to rebend the front knee, tuck the back toes. This is a tricky transition, so be patient. Find a focal point, lift back up. Ooh, those thighs are working. And then pivot yourself open for warrior two. So right toes pointed straight open, hips are nice and neutral here, pelvis is neutral. Arms to a T or hands at the waist. Get yourself settled here and then just take a few little warm-ups of that thigh, see how it feels. If you want to bring the arms in, we're going to do those 5 rounds of flowing warrior two. So straighten the front leg, arms circle up, Exhale, release. Inhale, circle. Exhale, release. 3 more times. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more time. Inhale. Exhale. Now drape that right forearm down so you're in your side angle pose. Same shape with the lower body. You're just draping the forearm down, then stretch the top arm up and over the top ear. 1 more breath. And slowly begin to press yourself up. As you do so, pivot the right toes in, then heel toe your stance a little closer together, wider than hip distance, but not super wide straddle. Toes are peeled open. Begin to bend your knees. We call this our goddess squat. Some people call it horse pose. I like goddess squat better, especially when you're pregnant and you might feel like a goddess, or you might need to be reminded that you are a goddess. You're carrying that baby. Your body is doing a lot of work right now. Your baby is doing a lot of work growing. And we need to prepare our bodies to be strong, to safely deliver our babies. So we're working those thighs, we're working those legs, and you're releasing the pelvis. So with hands at the waist, start to just feel your breath moving down your body. Exhale out with the mouth open. I know the thighs are burning, mine are burning too. As you exhale, feel your pelvis releasing down. Feel the pelvic floor relax. So even as your legs are working, you're able to keep your breath open. You're able to keep your pelvis neutral and relaxed. This is an important skill to develop over the course of your pregnancy for your labor, for delivering your baby. How can you breathe through intense physical sensation? How can you keep the breath open, relaxed? How can you keep your focus on your breath even as you're experiencing a lot in your body? We're gonna stay here for 5 more breaths. I know it's hard. As I said, my legs are burning too. 2, 3, you got this. 4, 1 more big breath. 5, and now straighten the legs, relax the feet, circle the hips. Remember those hula hooping hips you did in your hands and knees, your tabletop? Find those again here, swaying your body around, releasing. A couple more breaths. We're gonna come now into a squat. So that transition can look really different for any body, no matter if you're pregnant or not, but especially if you're pregnant. If you have a lot of outer hip flexibility, you might just sit yourself right on down into a squat. That might seem like an impossible feat if you're later in your pregnancy. So maybe you set up your blocks. You might even have a low chair, a stool, or a high chair, a normal chair, and you're just sitting your seat down into that. So you're finding a version of a squat. You can have your heels lifted if that feels better to you. You can have your heels grounded if that feels better. Try to have the spine really long and tall, as if you're sitting into a wall. You might even be against a wall, pressing into a wall. We're gonna spend a few breaths here and return to that awareness and the focus of the pelvis, and awareness and focus of the breath. So find those long, deep breaths that release out and down. So the pelvis is relaxing, the pelvic floor is relaxing. Any tension in the jaw and the throat. So I inherently, just without even thinking, I close my eyes. That might be what you do. So you close your eyes to focus on your breath. Maybe your eyes are open. And take 3 more big breaths here in your squat. 1, 2, 3. Gently release yourself down onto your bottom. Turn yourself around if you're facing the front so you have the length of your mat. Plant your palms on the ground with your fingertips facing your seat and your feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart. And we're gonna try to find a figure 4 stretch here. So you might have to walk your feet a little bit out if you're farther in your pregnancy, and that right ankle is gonna come on top of the left thigh. To find more sensation, you press your chest into the legs. Your belly might stop you from that. If it feels comfortable to be on your back, Then come onto your back to find this stretch. This is a really nice stretch for the SI joint area, which can be very uncomfortable during pregnancy, as well as a nice hip stretch. So you can be on your back, or you can remain upright if that's more comfortable for you breath-wise and body-wise. We'll spend a few breaths here, finding that deep stretch. So I'm going to show two options here. One is the upright option. So this is if it doesn't feel good to be on your back. You can find a half happy baby in an upright shape. It's going to be a little work on that left arm, the grounded hand. Let the left knee roll open. Find a half happy baby. If it feels okay, come onto your back. So that's the alternative option here. And maybe there's some movement, a bend and a straighten, a pressing the heel up to the sky. Really depends what's going on. I'm going to show this in both formations. See how that feels. And you skip anything that doesn't work for you. When you're ready, we're just going to do exactly the same few things on the other side. So the left ankle comes over the right thigh. This is your upright figure four. If you're feeling everything you need to feel, you stay right there. If you want to come on down to your back, you come on down to your back and find that deeper stretch. It can be really hard to reach if you have a belly in the way. So you might just have your hands free. You might use a strap to wrap around the knee, the back of that right thigh if it's hard to reach the leg. So if you're coming from your upright figure four, then you're just allowing the right knee to peel open as you reach for the left foot for that half happy baby. And maybe there's a little movement here. And you could do the same exact thing, just like the other side, on your back, if that's more comfortable for you. And we're just gonna come back up. So I'll get the same options here. If it's fine to be on your back, your feet can be nice and wide and you can swish your legs side to side. If it's not comfortable to be on your back, then you're coming upright, swish your legs side to side. Really rock out those hips. And you have an option, whether you're laying down or upright, to bring the ankle on top of the thigh on each side. So as you release to the left side, it would be the left foot on top of the right thigh. As you release to the right side, it would be the right foot on top of the left thigh. This deepens that outer hip stretch, which can feel really nice if you're having tightness. So you can do the same thing on the floor. And when you're ready, if you're on your back, you can hug your knees wide, you can circle your knees. If you're upright, you can swish your knees in and out a few times. And then we're just gonna come to the final resting shape. This is the end of the practice. You can lay on your back, flat on your back if you're early in your pregnancy and that feels good to you. If you wanna be on your side, you could grab a pillow between your legs, a pillow for under your head, curl yourself up. If you're near a wall, you could also take your legs up a wall for a little bit of elevation if that feels good. It really depends where you are in your pregnancy and what you're experiencing. You might also find you'd rather be upright. I have a lot of students later in pregnancy who, for breath purposes and comfort, prefer just to take Shavasana upright. You could lean into a wall and sit cross-legged or in your butterfly pose, sitting into a wall. So wherever you feel like you could release for a moment, release tension in your body, release your breath, and find a little bit of stillness and quietness. So you're finding that shape for yourself. Close your eyes here. If you want to have a hand at your baby, a hand on your belly, you can, or just let your arms drape naturally. Before you release everything, take a moment once again to check in first with your baby. How is baby doing? Do you feel your baby moving right now? And then redirect that awareness, that check-in to yourself. How are you doing? How are you feeling in this moment? can you offer yourself a little bit of kind thoughts, a little bit of love right now, especially if you're feeling any kind of anxiety or discomfort, emotionally or physically. And whenever you're ready, you're just going to release into that place of quietness. If you fall asleep, let yourself fall asleep. If you feel fidgety and you need to move a little bit, move a little bit. Just be wherever you are. Be okay with that. And you can stay in your final resting shape as long as you want to. I'm going to conclude the class, but I invite you to stay in a comfortable shape. If you're coming out of your Shavasana, go ahead and meet me in an upright shape. So it could be cross-legged or some other seated position. If you're staying in your Shavasana, stay in your Shavasana. Whatever place you are, have your eyes closed. Connect to your breath again. Bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your baby. We'll take 3 big breaths together. Inhale in through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. One more time, inhale, exhale, release your hands, and whenever you are ready, open your eyes. Thank you for joining me today. Good work, mamas. Take care of yourselves, take care of your babies, and I'll see you next time on the mat.